Welcome, family. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad that you joined us here for another episode of Epic Understanding. Now, I want to say up front, if you are looking for Reggie D. Smith, he had to reschedule. So, we do have an excellent guest for you, and it will not disappoint you. I have Reba Hobbs Bell here for you, and she is an amazing author, and she has a story that will make your head spin. Welcome, Reba.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And thank you for joining us. You know what? There is something to be said about stay ready.
That's right.
You
That's
don't have to
right.
get ready if you stay ready. So
That's right.
that's right. So magnificent. So Reba is an author. Tell us about your book, Reba.
Where recently I wrote a book called A Blessing in Disguise, and it's a plan for domestic violence victims and survivors to feel happier, healthier, and whole. It's pretty much, you want me to tell you what the book is about?
Yeah, of course.
It's pretty much a survivor kit on a plan on how to mentally survive after domestic violence. So a lot of people know about what you have to look for and be aware of when you're going through domestic violence. But I'm giving people, okay, you got out of it. So where we start from here? And so that's what the book is about.
Okay, so your book really starts after the domestic violence ends.
Exactly.
Okay, that is excellent. So I'm just curious, what's the first thing someone should do when they get out of that type of relationship?
Forgive. A lot of
Ooh.
people a lot of people may be at a aha for that because a lot of people don't think about that, but you have
Mm-hmm.
to forgive because forgiveness is for you, it's also for the other person, and that's like the hardest step, but it's the best step that I can say that I took personally, because also the book is about my journey on what I did and how I had to forgive. So the first step I would say is to forgive.
You want to know something? That hit me when you said that because I actually know some very successful women. They went on in their career, they went on in their personal life, but they're still bitter.
Yep.
They're
Because,
still bitter.
because forgiveness, I talk about this in the book too. Forgiveness is about your mindset. Now, when
Mhm.
we think about forgiveness, we like, okay, you forgive and you forget and it's over with. 9 times out of 10, that's not the truth because we're still living in a victim mindset. Sometimes we're still living as the victim and not
Mhm.
going into other situations and relationships, and you're still playing a victim, regardless if you knew it or not. And so that's what I talk about. I talk about first forgiving yourself because a lot of people think that forgiveness is just about the other person. Well, the first chapter is forgiving yourself. You have to
Mm.
forgive yourself, not that you intentionally or unintentionally did anything wrong to yourself, but it's a process that you have to accept that happened to you. And a lot of times, domestic violence is so silenced, people don't want to accept that it happened, and that's
Okay.
the issue. So,
Mhm. And I would say, you always once you're out of it, you're really out of it. You always think you should have gotten out of it sooner. Sooner. And so you have regret because of the time that you lost,
yes,
or you have regret because you knew you shouldn't have been with that person
exactly.
anyway. So you're kind of mad at yourself because you missed all the red flags.
Yep,
Heck, you missed the burning flags.
exactly. And that's the number one reason why you forgive yourself. You forgive yourself because it was something that you did. It was a choice that you made, but it wasn't a choice that you got abused. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
yes, we, and 9 times out of 10, we do ignore the flags. We do. I know I did. This is
Mhm.
my personal story. I know I did. And so I accepted certain things, and it also go back to what I talk about too, our history. So
You want to know something? Sometimes you ignore the flags. I mean, I ignored flags
mhm,
regarding my past relationships. And you know what? I really was not raised to spot
Mm-hmm.
the flags. I just wasn't raised. You know what? My mom was in love with love. My mother loves love. I love you, young love, and love is beautiful, and love is kind. Love, 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 love.
Your name.
Thank you, thank you. Uh, so I never want to be defensive when it comes to relationships, but I do want to have appropriate boundaries.
Yes. I
Mm-hmm.
talk about that in probably chapter 8. Um,
Okay.
because everything in the book is also a process. And it took a process for me to understand that I had to have boundaries. I had to have boundaries with my family members, friends,
Mm-hmm.
um, personal relationships I was in. And a lot of times we don't put boundaries up for our personal family member and friends. And so a lot of times we accept abuse in other relationships with parents. And
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to say have boundaries with your parents until you get older and understand you have to have boundaries with your parents. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, when you're younger, it's a little harder to form that boundary. But when you get older, to understand that abuse can happen at any age, it happens at any time, and it can happen in any relationship. And 9 times out of 10, abuse happens in our first parental relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's why we get into other relationships and we accept it.
You know, there is a organization. It's called ACEs Matter,
Mm-hmm.
and that talks about having abuse when you're a child, whether it is psychological, emotional, it could be physical, but
Yeah.
basically you you have your all of your boundaries, you have them basically violated. You don't have necessarily, you don't have standards for yourself necessarily, and
Yes.
what ends up happening is you take those inappropriate ideas about relationships into adulthood.
Yeah. And you don't know if they're inappropriate. You just
Mhm.
accept them. Something that had become normal to me. Personal story with my mother being a verbal abuser when I was growing up. Thought that
Mhm.
was normal. Thought yelling and screaming was normal. So of course, when I got
Mhm.
into other relationships, friendships, that was how we talk. That
Mhm.
I used so, and it got to the point where other people was coming around. And I remember meeting my husband. He like, so y'all all loud. And it was like, yeah, we loud. What you mean? You know, being
Mhm. Mhm.
on the defense of, yeah, we loud. Don't be trying to judge us. But it was the way I was taught to be
Mhm.
loud, to talk loud, and I still talk loud. I'm still trying to train myself because that we normalize certain things. We normalize getting loud and be like, and my husband look at me like, you know, you loud, right? you know,
So you want to know something? I don't know. I don't want to police people being loud, because loud is not necessarily disrespectful or abusive.
right.
I'm
It's
not. I'm not loud, but I don't police other people being loud.
mhm,
Um, I do police hostility
right. And so
and
that's what I
dysfunction.
was normalizing. I didn't know the difference between being loud and being hostile. So
Mhm.
if you offended me, I get loud. And
Mhm.
instead of me saying, Mrs. Love, you offended me in a normal way, I don't
Mhm.
like when you do this. I don't like when you do that. That's like setting a boundary.
Mhm.
Please
Mhm.
don't do this to me. It's da 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 da, and I go to another level of hostility, which goes
Mhm.
to disrespect.
Right, right. And then you become reactionary. And so this whole cycle of dysfunction begins to
Dysfunction.
mhm, begins to spew and blend, and it gets very toxic.
Yep.
So you had to unlearn a whole bunch of stuff.
And I'm still unlearning a whole bunch of stuff. And even with the process of writing the book, it was things that God was revealing to me that it was like, okay, you still doing some of that stuff now.
Mhm.
And that I had to, I'm still unlearning. I'm not, just because I wrote a book about it, don't mean I'm perfect. But it also means that I want to help other people to not wait. when you about to do this, go this way, go this way. So the point of the book is a step by step of what I did, and please don't do my mistakes.
Do you think culturally, in America, we're a little bit hostile?
Yes, I do. I do. We get labeled as the angry black woman, quote unquote.
Or better yet, the ugly American?
Exactly.
You
Because
know, that's the label we have in America.
yep.
I
And
don't want to poo-poo on America, but um, we are some. I mean, we shoot people in traffic.
yeah. Yep.
We go off at the drop of a dime. We're acting full-fledged nuts on planes.
But it goes back to what you said. It goes back to the learned behavior. If
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
dig deep down and you talk to somebody, most of the time it's what they learn. Most of the
Mhm.
time people don't recognize it though. Most of the time people don't. I know I did. I didn't recognize a lot of things I was doing that was alert behavior until
Mhm.
I started digging deep. Going to therapy, another thing that I'm sorry to say, black people don't want to do. I hear it more of our culture than
Mhm.
other culture about the negative of what they think that therapy could be and don't be. But
Mhm.
my way of dealing with it is I went to therapy, and
Okay.
I'm in therapy right now, and because everything that we go through, I'm learning it's a phase, it's another phase of life. So what you may heal from, it may be
Okay.
something still deep down that you need to heal from again, or you may find some new things. I'm in therapy right now because I don't know how to deal with the deaths that's been happening in my family and my friends.
Mhm.
So a lot of times people don't know, they hold it back, but death can be a process of you need therapy.
So obviously, if someone dies that's close to you,
Mhm.
there are stages to grief, and the five stages of grief. It's very popularized. But I must say, anytime there's loss, there is grief.
Yeah.
There is grief. You got denial. First of all, I want everybody to know that it's not necessarily in that order. You might get angry first and then you go into denial. But then, so there's denial, bargaining, um, uh, you know anger, acceptance. I'm missing one. Family, help me out with the one that I'm missing. Which one am I missing? I said bargaining, I said anger, I said denial, I said acceptance. I'm missing one. I'm missing one. But whatever it is that I'm missing, you go through those stages, and then you might hit reset and flip back to another one.
Yeah.
You know? I said yes, I said denial. So I need somebody look up the five stages of grief for me. We are not missing one, because now it's driving me nuts that I'm missing one. So the ones that I named, just once again: bargaining, denial, anger, acceptance. So what's the one I'm missing? I don't know.
um,
I should know this. You know what? I would, you know how you take those essay tests in
mhm.
school? I would be driving myself crazy looking at the blank piece of paper going, what's the other one? But anyway, you have to be able to deal with that in your grief. And it's important. Depression. Thank you. Thank you. Ding
Depression.
ding 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 ding
One
ding ding ding
too.
ding.
That is a big one because
That's the
that
major one. That is the major
that one
one.
applies to me.
Yes,
That one
yes. Thank
applies to
you,
me. Right.
everybody. Thank you. You guys are the bomb.com. I love you for that. Yes, 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 yes. Well done. Well done. Well done. Well done, family. I appreciate you. So, and depression can get clinical.
Yes.
Depression can get clinical. So, um, you can like lose yourself in depression. So Did you grieve when you went from the abusive relationship to being, free?
Of course I did. I had to. When we was in the program, and I was a part of this amazing program, South Suburban Family Shelters,
Okay.
and it's in the suburbs of Chicago. Um, they helped us walk through the process of after going through it, the grieving process, the acceptance, because it sounds like the same thing with DV, but it they helped us walk through that process of grieving and accepting certain things.
Mhm.
And the grieving process is not a process where you just be like, okay, I grieved and I'm over with. It's like
Mhm.
a I don't know how to explain it, but like a you ever seen puzzle pieces come together and break down or
Mhm.
whatever. Oh, you seen a commercial where somebody's breaking down and they falling apart. It's like
Mhm.
everything, a whole nother shell falling off of you. Because the grieving
Mhm.
process make you realize stuff about yourself.
I'm going to tell you the one of the most significant things that I learned about grief in any situation is that you can grieve a situation,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of the sudden you can get to a place in your life and you hit that grief again.
Yep.
It hits you on another level, and it's like you have to start all over.
Yep. It's nothing wrong with starting all over though.
But
That's the part
but
people
I
don't want to
didn't
do.
know that.
Yeah, that's the part people don't want to do. People don't want to start all over because they know that it gets worse before it gets better. And it's a
Mhm.
process. Everything that we do in life is a process. And anything that's worth having is worth, like the saying says, fighting for. And meaning that your life is worth getting back. You're worth loving again. You're worth going through that process again. You're worth getting that intellectual knowledge. That's the reason why I say I don't cancel out therapy. Just getting therapy one time doesn't cancel out, oh, I'm just healed. Oh, everything is just over. Because you, like you just said, you might have to go through that grieving process one more time. I know
Yeah.
that my nephew died 3 years ago. Now my grandmother died this year. And
Mhm.
I'm like, hold on. 3 years ago seems like a long time. I know it seems like a long time, but with grief, it's like, now my
It
grandma.
comes in waves. It comes in waves. And like when this happens with a family member of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Every time someone else dies, they re-grieve all the way back
Yes.
from the 90s.
Yep.
It opens that, and so they re-grieve almost each family member all over again.
Because it brings back memories.
Mhm.
It brings
Mhm.
back, oh, why, or you start questioning certain things, or
Mhm.
tragedy. And tragedy is one of the number one things. So it brings back a tragedy for you.
So tell us, okay, so what's that next step? After we forgive, now what do we need to do?
Well, the next step after you forgive yourself is actually the next step. I mean, the first step, and then you forgive others is the next step. And then you talk about after the forgiveness
Yes.
is loving again. You start loving
Mhm.
again,
Mhm.
meaning um setting goals for yourself. Because if you get up every morning and you like, okay, I can't do this. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, I can't do this. I thought, well, you're gonna have to start telling yourself you can do this. You're gonna start loving yourself again. So the next step
Okay.
is loving yourself. Meaning, after I forgave myself and I forgave others, it's okay for me to start loving myself. Motivate yourself. Read motivational quotes every morning. I have an I am app on my phone, not because of anything else, just because I know who I am, and I know who I want to be. I started seeing myself in a whole nother light. Then I wasn't that abused person anymore. I started getting myself out of the victim mentality.
Mm.
I had
So So what I see hear you saying is that you have to be intentional about
intentional.
feeding yourself good things.
Yes.
You
Because that's
know,
the only way that the next you set boundaries. That's the only way you start figuring out who you are. You can't be in another relationship. You can't start something over again unless you start figuring out who you are. And a lot of times when you in the process of the forgiveness of forgiving you, and you forgiving others, you figure out the why then. And then the love start coming.
I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something that just washed over me when you were talking. Because we know ourselves, right? And
Yeah.
most people, I know myself, I know who I am, or and all of
Mhm.
this, right? But if you've been in an abusive relationship, you don't necessarily know who you are loved.
Yes.
You don't
Say
know,
it.
yes, you don't know who you are when you are loved. And so I'm just picturing this flower, right? And a
Mhm.
flower that's all dried up and wrinkled when it's not watered. And you
That's
mess.
why they put a flower.
Okay, okay, I
That's
love
why I
it, I
put a
love it.
flower.
Yes, and
Because
you
it's
mess
exactly
around and
what
put
you're saying.
you mess around and put some water on that flower, that sucker just plump all up and be all, hey, hey, hey,
Yes.
hey.
Yes. Because
Mm-hmm.
you're nourishing who you are. And like I said, it was who I was, who I didn't want to be anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
so just because I was out of it, it got to a point where even when I was in a relationship with my husband, I started like he too good to be true. I started really
Mm.
believing that because I'm like, hold on, now you gonna do something to me. You gonna put your hands on me. You gonna be verbal abusive. I started still. I was still in that victim mindset.
Well, you taught me a term the other day, and I can't recall it, but it's when you were abused and then you start abusing somebody
Yeah,
else. Was it
yeah,
reactionary abuse? Is that what
yes,
it is?
yes.
Okay.
That's what I started doing to my husband. I
So break
started
that down for us. Break that down.
okay. So by me being abused before, and it didn't start with my son's father. It started with my mother. So
Okay.
I went through accepting it from my mom, accepting when I got an adult, got in
Mm-hmm.
an adult relationship. I accepted it when I got an adult, even though it was just verbal abuse from my mom. It went into physical abuse from my maid. So I accepted it from my physical abuse and verbal abuse from my maid. To when I got out of it, I started becoming the abuser. And they talk about that in domestic violence, that you have to watch for the signs. I remember this. I remember later that you have to watch for the signs of you not being the abuser because you don't want to accept the love that you never got before. We don't
Mm-hmm.
accept the love that we had, that we actually can see, we become the abuser. So I became the abuser in my marriage, in my
Mm.
relationship. I started
Mm.
trying to make my husband do things. I tried to nitpick at him because I'm like, you're too good to be true. Because I didn't believe that I was accepting for that love. I didn't believe because I never seen that love that it was just too good to be true.
What do you know about this idea of trying to find something that's familiar to you? Because if you
Mm-hmm.
you grow up with that mindset and you just used to people arguing and yelling and putting
Yes.
their hands on one
Yes.
another, and then after I done knocked you up one and you didn't knock me one up one, we go lay down in a bed together and say we sorry.
Exactly. Exactly. And so that became a part of my relationship to I remember when my husband was dating, and I never told nobody this. I used to say, I'm a B, but that was me being in defensive. And
Mm.
he be like, and he say, he'll come back and say, could you stop calling yourself that? I'm
Ooh.
like, no, because I am, and you just gonna accept that I am. Could you stop calling yourself that? You're not. You're not that. And it was him loving me through what he seen
Wow.
of me keep on trying to push him away because I was like, you gonna do something.
So you know what? That is such you know, a awesome response.
Yeah.
That is such an amazing response for a man because he refused. He refused to allow you to talk about you in
Yeah.
any light that he didn't find accepting.
Yep.
That's a special quality in a man. I love that.
Yeah. And it
I'm
was
very impressed.
it was just the way he was raised. He was raised with pastor parents, and When me and my husband got together, it was by happenstance because I'm gonna tell you the truth. And we laugh at it now, but he used to take it as an insult. Until later, I started telling him it's a compliment, honey. You're nothing like I used to date. And so
Okay.
when we happenstance got together, it was just like, why this man, this boy, I would like, he was nice, sweet, kind.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, yeah, he a little too much of a good boy. And it was like me trying to push him away. But it always,
Wow.
always was God was trying to show me you deserve love. And
Wow.
what you think you want is not what you want.
Wow. Yeah.
And my husband came in and it was like a whole whirlwind. We went through our stuff, but it was still a whole whirlwind. He still has been never the best, but the best I ever had, but also never what I experienced either. So he used to think that was an insult, but it's very much a compliment because he's actually what I needed. And
That's amazing. I was talking to a good friend of mine earlier that I love me a nerd or
yes, that's exactly what he was. That's what he was. That's exactly what he was. He was a little nerd, but it was just like when he was trying to talk to me, I was like, yeah, but no. But he's warmed my heart, and it was just like our conversations and just me being honest about what I've been through. One thing I did love, we was genuine in the beginning, straightforward. I let him know about the abuse. I let him know that it was my son's father. I let him know that, because he was coming into me and my son's life. So he had to
Mhm.
understand the relationship that I had with my son's father and his family, and we had a relationship at that time, but it wasn't in a relationship. We had a co-parenting relationship for our child.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
him understanding that and being mature enough to understand what I've been through and say, okay,
Mm.
I'm gonna love you regardless. Because I seen him through some fire. I ain't gonna lie.
Oh my
Through
goodness.
some fire.
You gave that man all kinds of
I
trouble.
did. I did.
He decided to love you, and so thus he loves you.
Yes. Yes.
That's amazing. But I can tell that you're very much in love with him because you are absolutely glowing.
Oh, thank you. That's my
Just
baby.
talking about him, you are glowing, and
That's
that
my
is beautiful.
yes.
So, so okay. First we forgive,
Hmm.
then we learn how to love. What's next?
That's when the family boundaries come and the setting up your friendships come. And that was what I was talking about. The family boundaries, setting up your friendships, starting all over again, getting new friendships. If the friendships that you had, um, because you need to know what you like and what you don't like. You need to address that. I don't like when you talk like that. You need to address the boundaries. And then the last part, well, I'll tell you about the last part, but it's the therapy. I put therapy as the last because it 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 goes with therapy and getting mental support, coaches, and I had at that time I had ministers in my church that
Hmm.
guided me through. I had mental support and I was in therapy
Okay.
because
You
a
know what?
lot
A
of
lot of
people don't
people,
want
like you
to.
said, a lot of people shy away from therapy. A lot of people shy away from
Mhm.
therapy. I'm going to say this: if you're not going to do therapy, get in some type of trusted group.
Exactly, exactly.
Yes, where you can be reflective about your own heart and you can talk things out, you know.
Yeah, because I talk about that. I talk about if it's not therapy, I did say that. Some kind of
Mhm.
support, a support group. I talk about the support that I had outside of therapy because to me, I needed all of it.
Mhm.
But the support that I had outside of therapy, that nobody was gonna allow me to go back into that depression state, that sad state. Why did this happen to me? I woulda, shoulda, coulda state.
Mhm.
Sometimes we recycle ourselves back to that mindset and say, I don't deserve, when we all deserve love. We all deserve support. We all deserve people that care about us every day. We all, even with me and my mother's relationship, it got better over the years because I started setting those boundaries or whatever. Um, it's still some things that some people got to understand. Parents are who they are, and It's not up to you to change them, it's up to you to change you.
So
So
I love the fact that you said recycle yourself back around to that mindset.
mhm.
That is so important because we have to resist doing that. Um, we are in charge of setting our own boundaries for
Yes.
ourselves. So that is very important. And then I want to ask you about this particular concept because so many people say, "Well, I have friends for that. Why aren't friends good enough? Why can't we depend on friends for this?"
Number one is because sometimes friends just want to tell you what you want to hear.
Mhm. Mhm.
Sometimes, most of the time, friends are not giving you the raw. They're not going to tell you that you need help. They're not
Mhm.
going to tell you. Sometimes they just want to accept who you are and don't want to see you being a better person. And that's just the truth. I've went through it.
Mhm.
They also just want to be the vent, the negative Nancy, the vent. Long as she come to me about venting, and it's like the what I heard recently, trauma bonds.
Mhm. Mhm.
You have a support with your friends. Sometimes it's a trauma bond, meaning what we got in common that's negative. And if it's
Right.
not positive, if it's not bringing light to the situation, if it's not trying to change me or change you, then we aren't connected to trauma bonds. You ever been in a relationship with a girlfriend and all y'all do is talking negative, or she'll call you like, "Let me tell you, girl." There's nothing wrong with "let me tell you, girl." The problem I have with "let me tell you, girl," if it's always "let me tell you, girl."
So
And
I am familiar with that concept. That's not something that has never been my style. Um, I have always pushed away from enemy bonding.
yeah,
Like there might be a circumstance, but I don't like the idea of bonding because I don't like something because for this reason right here,
mhm.
it calls for too much complaining.
Exactly. And I don't want to hear it. It just it's
Yeah.
it's the truth. It's just something about me. I've always been like this, and that's why I think I wrote this book. Um, I've always been a listener. People always yield to come to me for advice and stuff. But I always been the one to say, "Okay, I'll listen, but what we gonna do to heal that, or what we gonna do to fix that?" A lot of people don't want to hear that part.
Mhm. Mhm.
You got to understand, a lot of people don't want to get fixed. Some people don't want to get healed. Let's call it spade and spade. They don't. They want to stay in that negative because that negative feeds off of, that's what they feed off of. And it got to the point, back to the boundaries, where that's where you put up the boundary and
Mhm.
say, okay, so I was just having this conversation on my live last week. I was talking to a man, and it was just like he was just complaining, complaining, complaining. I got to do this,
Mhm.
I got to do that, I got to do this. And I'm giving him advice during the whole conversation. And it got to a point where I got frustrated because I'm like, okay, he's not listening to nothing I'm saying. He just want to complain. Well, I'm kind of not that person anymore.
Okay.
You could vent, and if you don't take the advice, that's fine. But it was an excuse of why you couldn't take the advice every time. So now it's getting to the point where, okay, now I'm not that person for you to talk to because I have a boundary where I said that we're a solution takers here. We are. It may not be that solution at that time, but I like to provide solutions for problems. I've always been like that. And so if I realize that you're calling me just to complain, I kind of get like, oh, okay, I'm not the one. So,
Oh my goodness. So I'm listening to you, and what's coming to mind is this particular idea. When we re-examine our friendships, we
mhm.
need to examine what is this person fueled by? Because some people are fueled by adversity.
Yeah.
Some people are fueled by drama. Some people are fueled by joy. And
Hmm.
so, what kind of energy does this person become energized from? You know.
I agree. Some people that I talk to, well, what I was talking to, they are fueled by negative energy. And then it
Mm-hmm.
started getting to the point, a lot of people don't know that transfer emotions thing is very,
Mm.
very true. And we need to consider that. You ever had a conversation with somebody, you was happy. and then they just so negative Nancy that you get off the phone and now you got this negative energy all over you.
Hmm.
And
You know,
something strong
energy is
happens.
big.
Yes, it's a big thing, but we don't acknowledge it. We don't acknowledge it. We like whatever. We just want to be their friend. And it's not just about being a friend, it's more than that. It's
Uh-huh.
about what you're feeding off of, what your life is surrounded by. Yes,
So,
we ain't gonna wake up every morning and say, I'm happy. But
so I would just say this: your vibe attracts your tribe.
yes, yes, I gotta make that a status.
There you go. Yes, make that a
I'm saying
status. Your
that.
vibe attracts your tribe, and
Yes,
y'all can put that in the comments. Your vibe attracts your
yes.
tribe. We can
Say that, guys.
start saying that one. But I definitely think it's the truth, and so it doesn't mean automatically um, because you dated somebody that was kind of negative, or because you had someone negative in your life, that's who
Right,
you were. That doesn't mean that.
right.
But what it does mean is that you did not have a boundary, you did not have a litmus test that prevented that type of person from coming in.
Exactly.
That's what we have to remember. So we just have to be careful with ourselves. Family, this is what I want you to know, family. Let me get up to the camera. You are valuable enough to be careful with.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. You are irreplaceable. You are one of one. Nobody can come here and be you. Only you can be you. And so that's why we have to be careful with ourselves.
Yes. Yeah, I love that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes. Our vibe attracts our tribe. I appreciate you on that. So thank you so much, family. Can you do me a favor? Can you do me a favor? Crack that book open and give us something good. Give us a little good
Oh,
passage.
okay. I got you. I'm going to say I could have did that one. I'm
I appreciate the amen, y'all. I appreciate that.
gonna
Matter of
okay.
fact, while
So,
she's gathering her passage, can y'all say something nice to one another? Just tell somebody, see somebody out there. You know, Stacy, say something nice to John. Uh Jordan, say something nice. Who is this uppercut grandma? Say something nice. Y'all say something nice to one another. Y'all do me a favor and love on one another. I appreciate that when you do it. You know, I want to see who can say the most kind thing, who has the most kind thing in their heart. You know, that's always good. What you got for us, Miss Reba?
all right. I am going to go off of my first thought, what I had before. Chapter I think it's 6. It's called Mr. and Mrs. Brokenness.
Ooh, okay now, we're listening.
Okay, anytime you go through physical, mental, or verbal abuse, you get to a point where you have a broken mindset, meaning whatever happened to you in your past, things that happened to you as a child, or things that happened to you when you was a teenager, things that happened to you when you're a young adult coming up through your relationships. Most times, that's when it starts. It started with a broken mindset. Sometimes routine and something that we're used to causes us to be in the broken mindset. Maybe you've seen your mother get abused, maybe you've seen your father get abused, or vice versa. It happens to mothers and fathers. It could be a mother of verbal abuse, or it could be a father of physical abuse. Whatever it is, and when it happens, you created a broken mindset. You don't know your self-worth. You don't know who you are. You don't know where you want to be. You find yourself keep putting yourself in the same situations and circumstances that led you where you are. Where when you rededicate your life to Christ around the time of trying the different of me, when I rededicated my life to Christ, around the time of me trying to be a different woman, a different person, and not saying something was wrong with me, I had a better life. I rededicated my life to Christ and to myself. I focused on the relationship I had with Him. I focused on the relationship I wanted with Him. I took myself out of the negative relationships and put myself in positive ones, and surrounded myself with people that built up my self worth.
That is so amazing. I like the fact that you point out that we have to relearn ourselves.
Yeah.
We have to relearn ourselves. Mm-hmm. Now, are there any parting words you want to say to our family?
Of course. I know that everybody thinks of domestic violence as just physical, but it's anything that me and Miss Love talked about. Is verbal, it's emotional, it's verbal, emotional, physical, and it was one of them missing. Um, but
Verbal, emotional, physical, mental,
mental,
psychological.
psychological.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever you're dealing with, or whatever you have dealt with, or know somebody to deal with, get the help that you need. Whether it's just going to read a self help book, because this book is just a self help book, just to guide you. Whether it's you're talking to someone like we talked about, please get the help you need, because domestic violence is so silent that we nowadays try to sweep it under the rug.
Mm-hmm.
And it needs to be come out to the forefront, even if it's an embarrassing thing, because it can be. It's a very embarrassing thing. Nobody wants to say that their partner is abusing them. But we have to bring it to the forefront for a lot of people to get the healing that they need. That would be my biggest thing, because that's why I wrote the book, to bring it to the forefront. But I want people to extremely heal from it. That you stop living in a victim mindset, and you can have a better life. You can have the love that you need. You can have the love that you want. You can have the relationships that you want for yourself. Another thing, write down goals for yourself. Motivate yourself every day. I don't care if it's just going to the grocery store and getting out the house. Depression is very serious. And when we talk about domestic violence, we don't talk about depression, because but there are two in one. It can make you go into a depression state. So just please just get the help that you need, rather whatever it is. That would be my only thing.
So, as we're closing out, a couple of things came to mind. I want us to talk about the idea that you mentioned your relationship with Jesus. I want you to talk about that, but before you do, I want us to talk about sometimes when a person is depressed, it comes out as anger.
Yep.
It
So,
actually shows up as anger. And we would just be remiss if we didn't talk about that,
mhm,
because depression, sadness, particularly with men, comes out as frustration
uh,
because they're very unfamiliar with those emotions. And can you just
emotions.
yeah,
Yeah.
or they're very unfamiliar with the ability to navigate those
Mhm.
emotions. And can you just speak to that? And um, if there is a brave guy, you have to have a good camera that wants to just speak to that. I don't want to speak on that too much because I'm not a fellow, but I will put it out.
I agree.
Um, if you want to come on camera and say something about that, I'll let you do that. So I'm going to put this out there. But go ahead and speak to that concept.
Um, Depression and your mental state has a lot that goes hand in hand. And so when you're going through depression, you may not know that you're going through depression, because your anger is coming out, somebody offended you, and it brings up something that you may not even be aware of. It may be a trigger point. That's what we call it. We call it trigger points. Everybody have trigger points, but you may not know your trigger point. I could say, Miss Love, oh, why you got your hair in a ponytail? It's supposed to be down. That could be a trigger point for you, just as something simple as that, because somebody probably told you when you was a child that your hair look ugly when it's down. You get what I'm saying?
Mm.
So that could go into a depression state, that I would never wear my hair down, because I was told that I look ugly. A lot of times we don't pay attention to those signs and the symptoms of depression. We call them something else. We call them just being angry. You're just an angry person, and you're an angry woman. But if you tack into why you snapped at the time that you snapped, and the reactive moment of snapping, then you'll understand. And like I said, me being in therapy right now, it's trigger points. I have certain trigger points. I have OCD, which means if things don't go aligned with what I need to go, I do
Mhm.
snap. And my husband looked like, yeah, so she's going there. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, wow.
To this day, I have to understand that
Girl,
it's
bless your
okay.
husband. Bless
Yes,
your poor husband.
yes, it's okay if things don't go your way. I remember when I on to kind of get off of it, but get on it. I remember when my husband, oh, thank you. When my husband anniversary was in May, and I remember he ran to Walgreens to give me some stockings, and they was too small. I couldn't get mad at him because they was too small. He don't know nothing about no stockings, so I get in the car and I'm trying to hurry up and put them on so we get reservations at the restaurant. And I was like, I look like a hooker.
Oh,
And he looks at me. I
stockings
told
might make you angry for real, though.
right. And he like, you look like a hooker. I don't have on stockings with my dress. Women that don't wear stockings with their dresses look like hookers. And he like, okay, she's going crazy. But I'm gonna say nothing. We get into the restaurant. It went from they was late with our reservation, and we don't know when y'all gonna get seated, even though we made reservations for that time.
Uh-huh.
And I was just furious. And it was just, and then it got to a point where he had to say, when I came back out the bathroom, I said, I just gotta go to the bathroom. So I sat on the toilet, sitting there to calm down, because I'm mad. Everything didn't go on schedule. And he came after I came out the bathroom, and we still waiting. And he's like, baby, everything ain't gonna be perfect. We
Aw.
together. That's all that matters. And that made me feel like a bad wife. Like I just got to the table. I'm so sorry.
Girl, I hope you get your husband just all kinds of gifts and presents. You know what? He don't need Father's Day. He just needs Man's Day. Cause,
I
ooh,
did.
girl.
I went crazy for him for Father's Day. I did. I celebrated him a lot. But just in that, not understanding. So me starting doing certain things, he didn't know. He like, I don't know what your trigger point is. Like that's stockings. I mean, what am I supposed to do? And I knew I couldn't stop on him because he didn't know the stocking size. But
Oh,
um,
wow.
and so I got some certain other things I was just snapping about, and so I was like, okay, I gotta go back into therapy, And so it let she called it what she diagnosed me with is situational depression.
So hold on. Rodolfo, I think that's how we're saying it. Um, he says that he just has to stop. He says I just have to stop thinking about the things that make me upset. You know, does that work? Does that work?
For me or for
No,
him?
I don't know. Maybe it works for him, but I mean, would you advise that?
Yes, of course. Because at the same time, you have to live in the moment. It was some my therapist telling me, enjoy the moment. Stop
Mm-hmm.
thinking about them stockings. If you got off the
Oh
stockings,
my gosh. She says, okay. Hey, family, I want you to know that
know your triggers. Yes.
yes, no. Remember, I was telling you about the ACEs matter. This is her. She's joining us. She's hanging out.
Yes.
Cindy, I was talking about you earlier, so I'm glad you had a chance to join us. Everybody, go check out her website. So she's a really neat lady. And that's a fabulous organization, ACEs Matter. She helps us deal with the things from our childhood so that
Mm.
we don't recreate those
Yes.
things as
Yes.
an adult. So
Yes.
it is an amazing. Okay, yeah, she just dropped her website. Everybody, I'm going to actually say she has this program. It's called Zip Code Heroes. Reba, I'm going to recommend you
Mm-hmm.
to be a zip code hero, but it's you have to apply and you have to meet certain standards, but I'm going to give you a strong recommendation.
Oh,
But
thank you.
yeah,
Thank
but I
you.
want you go to her website and apply,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm going to give you a recommendation because with your book and what you have been through, I think that you would be an amazing person. She only accepts 144 people to be a part of this exclusive club, but I really do think that you would be
That would be
amazing.
amazing. Thank you for that.
I
That would
think
be
you would
amazing.
be.
Yes.
Yes. And then before we get out of here, I gotta have you talk about your relationship with God. I gotta have
Yes.
you talk about your relationship with God and how that elevated you, and how and how you got chains broken off your heart.
Well, my relationship with God started when I was 12, 13. But a lot of times when we get saved, what they call accountability and saved, we are
Mm-hmm.
not an acknowledgement of our relationship that we have with Him.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got older, in my 20s, started gaining the relationship, reading the Bible, and it wasn't just about going to church. It
Mm-hmm.
started making me open and aware to certain things that was happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've been homeless twice.
Mm.
Not gonna talk about that right now, but I've been homeless twice. One time with my son. And so it altered my relationship to the point of fact I started thinking in the beginning at first that God wasn't there for me. Then I had to think about who I was in Christ. And I started
Mm.
thinking about He loves me regardless. And that my stories or tests are stories and testimonies for other people. And I talk about that at the end of the book because I talk about you go help somebody else. You go tell your story to somebody else.
Okay.
Because our relationship with Christ is about other people. If at the end of the day, it's about who you're impacting, who you're talking to, how you live your life on this earth, how you want other people to view and see you. And so when I got to the point of the third separation between me and my husband, that's in the book too.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
got to the
Mm-hmm.
third. There are now people like three separations. He should just left you alone. The
Wow.
third
Y'all have to keep
separation.
trying till you get it right, though.
That's right. That's right. Uh, the third separation, God really broke me down. He really broke me down and said, first of all, you're mistreating the gift I gave you.
Ooh.
I remember like being on the floor, like crying, like, but he did this and he did that. And God said, I'm talking to you, though. You know me. Don't you know me?
Wow.
And it got to the point where God talked to me, gave me visions and dreams about certain things about me and my husband relationship, talked to me, broke me down about how I needed to change because it ain't for him, it was for God. How I had a story to tell other people, and I'm stopping my purpose and my calling that I had on my life or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. That my marriage is a ministry. It's just not a yeah, it's a
That's
ministry.
beautiful.
That's just not just a relationship, and that you have other women, men, whoever to help. You need to get it together. So it
Wow.
led me to yearn for the Lord more, regardless of me and my husband. I never knew me and my husband was gonna get back together or anything. I just wanted the relationship, real relationship with Christ. I just wanted to know Christ. That at that time he was breaking me down, and I just wanted to
Mm.
know him more. I was just like, I yearn for you. I just love you. Nobody could love me like Christ. Not even my husband. He can't
Oh,
love me like Christ loved me, because that
that's
man was
so
there
beautiful.
when I was living
That
on
is.
the street in my van with my son and no other places to sit in that car but my van with my son car seat and me sleeping in my car, and he was
Wow.
there. People didn't know. A lot of people don't know those stories.
Mm-hmm.
Going
Mm-hmm.
through that domestic violence shelter, then going through the program, getting the healing. I've been through quite a lot of things. He was there when my mother told me when I was younger that I had a calling on my life because I almost died before I was 7 3 times. I had
Mm.
meningitis and failed to thrive at 3 months and got in a
Wow.
car accident and broke half of my leg, one leg, my hip pelvic bone, and the other leg. God was there, and so
All of those
how could
times.
I? How could I? How could I? How could I turn my back on him? He like, I got a purpose for you. I could have took you home a long time ago. You
That
got a
is.
purpose. So
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is, it is a lot, but it is beautiful to know and to see how God carried you through all of that, because you certainly don't look like what
oh,
you've been
thank
through.
you.
You don't
Thank
look like
you.
what you've been through, okay?
I
And that
appreciate
is to
that.
God's glory.
Yes, it is.
And so I I really do try to practice being obedient. I have a bunch of stories, you guys, where God has told me to do something and I didn't do it.
We all do it.
Right, but I also have some stories where God has told me to do something and I didn't. So I want you to know that I did not plan to do this, what I'm about to do. I'm only being obedient. So I know this is for somebody particular, because why would he be telling me to do something that I don't do?
Yes.
Okay. In
Come
general, I
on.
don't do this. So, and maybe it's for all of you, but listen, I
Yes.
believe this is going to grab somebody special. God's talking to you for your glory.
Yes.
I will do anything just to see you, to behold you as my King. Lord, if I find favor in your sight, Lord, please hear my heart's cry. I'm desperately waiting to be where you are. I'll climb the highest destiny. I'll travel near or far for your glory. I will do anything. All right, my loved ones. All
Yes.
right, all right, all
Yes.
right.
Come on.
That was from my heart. That was from the Father. That
Yes,
was to
God.
your hearts. I hope it
Yes.
touched you. I'm kissing you. I'm hugging you. I'm loving you. That's
Yes.
how I feel about you. Mwah. Thank you so much, Reba, so for spending this
No
time
problem.
with us.
I
And
enjoy
just, you know what, girl, you are just such an open heart. I appreciate you like you
it. Of
can't believe. Y'all give Reba some big ups out there. Y'all give her some snaps.
course.
That's what y'all do. Because she was fabulous, y'all. She was fabulous. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
all that. All
Thank
right.
you.
So you guys have a good night. Oh, where can they buy your book, girlfriend? Where they
You
can?
can buy my book off of Reba Bell. Just go to rebabell.com. Or you can go, it's on Amazon, it's on Apple, it's on Kindle, it's everywhere. So
All right. And so what is it? What is it?
Reba
What is
Bell,
it called? I mean, what say the name again? Say the name.
a blessing in disguise.
All right. All right. I love it. I love it. I love it. We are so thank you for you
Of
being a
course.
present in the present.
Yes. Thank
Bye
you.
bye for now, guys.
Bye.